Artificial Frontier Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier Podcast.
Artificial Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier Podcast.
All right, so have you ever stumbled upon something that just makes you go, wait, hold up, what?
Oh, absolutely, like finding a rare record or something.
Kind of. Today we're taking a deep dive into something that sounds like it's straight out of hip-hop folklore. It's this whole thing about a supposed secret meeting, and get this, it claims to have changed the course of hip-hop, like forever.
Ooh, I'm intrigued already. You know how much I love digging into the history of this music. So, what's the deal with this meeting? Who was there? What went down?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The only thing we have to go on is this short excerpt from a blog post. It's dated Tuesday, April 24th, 2012. The blog is called Hip Hop is Red, and the title, buckle up, because it's a wild one. The secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Wow. Okay, so right off the bat, we're dealing with some pretty strong claims here. I mean, destroyed a generation. That's a lot to unpack. As an expert's area of expertise, I can tell you hip-hop has always been this powerful force reflecting and shaping culture. But to say a single meeting could destroy a generation, that's a bold
I'm
statement.
kidding. It's like those movie trailers that give you just enough to get you hooked but leave you hanging on the edge of your seat, dying to know more.
Totally. It's like we've got the missing piece of a puzzle. We have this tantalizing title, but we're missing a huge chunk of the bigger picture.
Right. We don't have the full article, just this title and a date. So no names, no details about what supposedly went down at this meeting. And that's what makes it so fascinating, but also kind of frustrating. It's like, is this legit? Or is it just some elaborate hip-hop myth?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
was it a bunch of record execs sitting around a table deciding the future of the music? Were there artists in the room? We just don't know. And that's where things get really tricky, because without that context, it's hard to assess the credibility of this claim. Like, we need to be asking, who wrote this? Are they a respected journalist, an industry insider, someone with an axe to grind?
Exactly. It's like trying to judge a song based on just one line from the chorus. You
Yeah.
need the whole track, the verses, the bridge, the whole thing to really get it.
Right. And even then, everyone's interpretation is going to be a little different. But let's say, for argument's sake, this meeting did go down. What could have been discussed that would warrant such a dramatic claim?
Yeah, I mean, what could have gone down that was so monumental, so earth-shattering, that it could supposedly change rap music and, as this blog claims, even destroy an entire generation?
Well, if we're talking about a shift in hip-hop, you got to look at the music itself. Did the lyrical content change drastically after this supposed meeting? Did certain subgenres suddenly become more popular or disappear altogether? Think about the rise of gangster rap in the 80s, for example. Some argue that this shift was influenced by media attention and record labels seeing an opportunity to capitalize on a certain sound, certain image.
Which brings up the whole question of influence. How much sway do these behind-the-scenes figures, these supposed puppet masters, really have over an art form as dynamic and constantly evolving as hip-hop? I mean, look at the whole East Coast/West Coast rivalry back in the 90s. There were definitely pressures from the industry, but ultimately the music came from the artists, from the streets, and it resonated with fans because it was real.
Right. And it's not just hip-hop where you see this. The relationship between art and commerce is a complicated one, no matter the genre. Look at the explosion of grunge music in the early 90s. That wasn't something cooked up in a boardroom somewhere. It was a cultural movement. It was raw, it was real, and it spoke to a whole generation of people.
It's true, and it's hard to imagine any single meeting or event having that kind of power to orchestrate something so huge.
Exactly. And look, I'm not saying that there aren't powerful figures in the music industry. There absolutely are. But the idea that they can control the direction of an entire genre with one meeting, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. So what's the takeaway here? I mean, we may never know what really went down at this supposed meeting or if it even happened at all. But this whole thing got me thinking, even if it's just a rumor, a myth, it shows how much intrigue and speculation there is surrounding the business side of music, especially in a genre like hip-hop.
Right. And it reminds us to think critically about these narratives, to question what we read and hear. Whether this specific meeting is true or not, it highlights how much music and money are intertwined. And maybe it'll inspire some of our listeners to do some digging of their own. There's nothing like a good mystery, right? Who knows what other stories are out there just waiting to be uncovered?
Artificial Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier Podcast. Artificial Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier
Artificial
Podcast.
Frontier Podcast.